Hello everyone, welcome back to the second video on this tiny little series where I talk about how I made my own VTuber model. If you want to watch the first video in the series where I talk about the art and the part separations, you can go on the card up there or on the description. For this video, I had to cut and speed up a lot of footage because I had too many hours to go through, and as I said in the first video, I'm going to make a unlisted playlist with all the raw footage of the rigging. That's a bit more than 19 hours. And even then, there's a lot of things that I didn't record because I had to change them after I tried the model on VTube Studio. And if you're curious to know how the final model is working, you can always check on my channel. I do gaming live streams mostly, and I'll probably be using it on a stream the day this video releases, and all the other ones after that also, not only on this day. So yeah, anyways, I already talked too much. Let's get into the rigging process. On the first day, I pretty much just prepared the model, starting by putting colors on some art layers, clipping shadows, and organizing the parameters in folders. I also renamed most of my art meshes. I ended up forgetting a few of them, and I have to tell you, please rename your art meshes. It's going to be so much easier if you want to do things later on in VTube Studio. You have no idea how bad it is when you have to go through a list that's like mesh 1, mesh 2, mesh 3 up to like mesh 84. So please rename your meshes. After that, I was just like actually meshing everything, but I changed a lot of that later as I was rigging. This was more of like a sketch mesh of sorts. While we're talking about the meshes, let me remind you that in the free version of Live2D, you cannot copy and paste meshes. So if you want your parts to have identical meshes, be it because they are reflected or because they're going to be glued, the best thing you can do is select both parts, mesh them together, and then later you can delete or add any points if you want to. Another thing that I did on this day was shaping the mouth. I wanted my mouth to have a tree shaped because it's very cute, but as you saw in the art, I just made a straight line. That's because it's awful to rig mouths with a tree shape. Trust me, I tried it. It looks like an aberration. So pretty much any mouth shape you want to have is better to just do a straight line first and then you change it up. This also makes easier to have a nice even mesh on the mouth because you can use the stroke mesh mapping tool that makes a perfect bridge around 2 or more points. Just remember to turn off mirror editing and mess with the settings to fit your needs. And then to end the first day, I did the Z angle for the head using a rotation deformer because it's a very easy rig to do. You just have to tilt to one side, tilt to the other one, and it's ready. first thing I did on the second day was making the XY angles for the head and the eye. I'm really bad with the face angles, so please don't mind if she looks like she was run over by a truck. It's not going to look like that at the end. Also, I'm not going to bring up every time I work on the eyes because I tend to redo that a lot in between doing other parts because it's very frustrating for me. And while we're talking about the eyes, there's one very important thing that you have to remember. I don't think you can copy and paste parameter values on the free version. I tried a bunch of times and it just never copied anything and pasted anything. So if you want to wink, you will probably need to rig your left eye and your right eye separately. I ended up not having to worry about it because later in the process I decided that I was going to sacrifice the winking because I needed more parameters, mostly for physics. So I ended up just getting rid of the right eye's parameters and just used the left eye for both of them. Then I started working a little bit on the XY angles for the body and the coat. But unfortunately, I had a very big fight with the glue that was holding the upper torso and the hip together. And I lost the fight. I lost it very badly, and I just deleted the glue and just raw dogged it. The third day was pretty much hair day. I decided to start by doing the hair Z physics using a blend shape, since blend shapes don't interfere with other parameters and it would make my life easier when I got to the X and Y movement physics. I used the rotation I set up earlier for the head as a guide on how the hair should look like here. This is going to change depending on how much you want to tilt your head and the length of your hair. For the longer strands, I use the patented deformer tool, and for the shorter bangs and the back of the hair, I just rotated the mesh. I also used this parameter for the ears, where I used a rotation deformer. Then I worked on the XY angles, following the angles I had already made for the head. This part is a lot of trial and error, since it depends a lot on the shape of your hair, the shape of your face. So if something doesn't work right, don't panic. Next day, I got to the eye shapes and physics, one of my favorite parts. I had already glued the upper lash and the eye white, so I added the pet deformer to the lash and expanded the parameter range, so the max value here would be 2. This way, the values are 0 for eye closed, 1 for the default eye open, and 2 for wide open eyes for a shocked expression. When I work with pet deformers, I try to always hold shift to make sure they stay aligned to their original positions, because if you freehand everything, this could cause distortions on the mesh. I usually just freehand for minor adjustments when it doesn't look quite right. Then I rig the shadow inside, also with the pet deformer, in the corner of the eye and lashes using a brush tool. Then I did the eye smile, where I had a little bit of trouble because of the way I meshed the eye whites. As you can see, at first I left a single dot in the middle of the mesh, thinking that was the correct way to mesh it, but that made my work way harder, because the geometry of the mesh would get messed up every time I tried to squish it. So don't make the same mistake as I did, just go around the eye whites and don't auto connect the points. Now for the iris jiggle. I put both the iris and the pupil in a warp deformer and use two parameters, jiggle X and jiggle Y. Positive X stretches the deformer horizontally and negative shrinks it. The same goes for the Y. Positive stretches it vertically and negative shrinks it. To make sure the deformations were proportional, I zoomed in very close and used the grid as a guide. I also used these parameters to rig the pupil jiggle, the tears, and the eye shines. In the case of the tears and the shines, I ended up reversing the positive and negative logic I used before so they would move in a different way and give a little bit more dimension to the rig. To end the eyes part, I made a very simple movement for lashes. I created a parameter called lashes curl that goes from -1 to 1 with a default of 0, and I put the lashes in a warp deformer. In the positive key, I warped the lashes down, making them as straight as I could, and on the negative, I curled them inwards. On day 5, I decided to do the mouth rig. I had already duplicated my lip line to use as the bottom lip, so I started by changing the max of the mouth open parameter from 1 to 1.2 and bringing both of these keys as a reference point for later, always using the grid to see if everything is symmetrical. For the mouth open, I added keys at 0.1, 0.3, and 0.6 in addition to the existent ones. rigging first the top lip line of each of these mouth open values to match the shapes from the different mouth forms, and then doing the same for the lower lip. In the end, I added the positive 0.5 key to the mouth form parameter to correct some parts that were not looking great. This part of the rig depends a lot on how your mouth is shaped. If you feel like what I did here doesn't fit your model's mouth, I recommend looking up for chart guides. There's a lot of people that make mouth rigs that range from the most simple to the absolutely extremely complex. To end the mouth rig, I shaped the inside of the mouth to fit the lips and glued it to both of them. After that, I worked on hair physics for the X and Y movements. I created two parameters, hair physics 1 and 2. On the first one, I rigged a bigger movement, starting from around the middle of each hair strand, and on the second parameter, I curled just the end of a hair, much like I did to the lashes before. I did that to pretty much every piece of hair except the bangs. To end the day, I made bouncy physics for the code to have some movement when being toggled on and off, and worked on the normal XY physics. On the last day, I decided to finally finish the Z angle for the body and add some physics to the arms to swing a little bit when I moved. But that ended up breaking a lot of the physics that I had already done for both of the arms and the sleeves, so I had quite some time figuring out how to work with that. I ended up having to glue the shoulders to the torso, and I had to do pretty much everything that involved the arms again. But I'm gonna be honest, while I was doing it, I didn't understand what broke it. Other than that, on the last day, I just took time to go over everything and see if anything was out of place. And that's pretty much it. The rig is done. And here we have the final settings for all the physics in the model. I absolutely love doing the physics. I'm not the best at it, but I love messing with things in this window. This is on real time, so you can see clearly how everything is working. And now you must be wondering, how did the model end up? Well, let me just rip the band-aid right off, I think. Ta-da! Let me... Oh. Hi, how's it going? This is how the final model looks up. Not looks up. This is how I look up. This is how the final model looks. Huh? Look at me. Ha! I had a lot of trouble making the mouth work properly, and I'm still not 100% what's the word? 100% satisfied with it. But this is what I look like. I set up two very simple toggles. I have the glasses off so you can see my eyes, my beautiful, beautiful eyes, and I have the coat off. But it looks so skinny when I don't have the coat. So let me put it back. There we go. And this is what I look like with my model. As you can see, I fixed the X angle. I don't look that bad anymore. And you have the Z. And have the smile. and have the So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to see more from this cute little goat, you can always subscribe to my channel, and you can tune in to one of the streams that I do every week. I stream pretty much 5 days every week. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.